In Tsujiki Market, Tokyo, a single tuna fish can fetch as much as $50,000. These buyers are paying a premium not just for taste, but for growing scarcity. 3/4 of all the world's fisheries are in serious trouble. One of the few that's still in a healthy state is the Western and Central Pacific. It's coveted by rich fishing nations, and they're building bigger and ever more sophisticated trawlers. Tiny island states are at risk of losing their most valuable resource. This week, Earth Report goes to the Pacific to find out if a new fisheries agreement can achieve a breakthrough and conserve a great fishery. Fishing is the way of life for the island peoples of the Pacific. For thousands of years, they've relied on the bounty of the sea for survival. Now, for the first time, they're seeing a decline in catches. The age of overexploitation has caught up with them. Amadeus Magala is a fisherman from the Solomon Islands. He remembers a time when he and his family caught plenty of tuna, just a few paddle strokes from the shore. Change began in the 1980s, when rich foreign countries started fishing for tuna in the Western and Central Pacific.
But I know some net boat me catch him big and small now. Everything me take him everything now. So start from that time when net boat him come. Also you may have to find them stack a piece where him come around also possible village also before now. And even with them
Magala's story is a familiar one. Throughout the region, the poor are losing out as increasing numbers of foreign vessels join the scramble for tuna. The governments of the Pacific Islands have a legal right to keep these vessels out of their coastal waters. Under international law, countries are considered to hold sovereign rights over the marine resources within 200 nautical miles of their shores. But these are some of the poorest countries in the world, and selling fishing rights brings much needed income.
Suppose net boat me go out, yeah? The men all right too. Fishing, yeah? I mean for Solomon Island people, no, yeah? You look lonely. But we had too much to tell him go, yeah? Yeah? And we had to go take a draft too. Because come on him take him silent too much. Big to win him me fella, yeah, but something like that, yeah? You know, we look lonely fella. And suppose me will try complain, but come on him no look lonely fella.
Areas of ocean that lie beyond the limits of state control are known as the high seas. Plenty of fishing goes on out here, but it's estimated that 65% of all tuna is caught within 200 nautical miles of the shore. Most of this is within the exclusive economic zones of developing nations, but the income from fees paid by foreign trawlers is a tiny fraction of the value of the overall catch. According to the Forum Fisheries Agency, Pacific Island nations retain less than 8% of the total value of their tuna resource. In a bid to increase their share, several countries are developing fishing industries of their own. This brings many benefits.
We employ people directly from the villages. Our bycatch and other damaged catch that is taken during our actual fishing, we normally take them back and give them to the rural communities to help them out in the small fishing projects currently operated by our villages.
The Saltai cannery is the envy of the Pacific, but few island countries have the right combination of geographical and human resources to build viable homegrown tuna industries.
There is a real challenge for small island developing countries to develop their fishing industries on their islands. But that's more than just fishing. There are a lot of infrastructure issues on Pacific Islands. In the short to medium term, using distant water fishing nation fishing capacity is a genuine way of getting economic wealth for countries without having to have that infrastructure in place.
Licenses then are here to stay, but at least they may soon get fairer. An international organization, the Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission, has recently been formed to manage and conserve the region's tuna stocks. The existence of the new commission should make it easier for poor island nations to secure a better deal for themselves. This is the world's most important tuna fishery, contributing roughly half of the global catch. Yet it's the last significant ocean area to get a regional fisheries organization. That's because it's only recently that fishing fleets have grown powerful enough to threaten the sustainability of the region's vast tuna populations. The tuna catch has risen from about 400,000 tons in 1979 to over 2 million tons in 2002. Over 80% of this catch is made up of a single species, skipjack. Skipjack, like all tuna, are predators, feeding on smaller fish, squid, and other species. The biggest predator of the skipjack themselves is this, the purse seiner. In the first stage of purse seine fishing, a school of tuna is located, often by helicopter. Next, a powerful speedboat encircles the school with a deep net. The tuna is scooped out of the net and frozen in tanks on board.
Ingin masuk TV? Ketika kamu menonton acara Bumi Hijau di televisi kesayanganmu, kamu bisa mengirimkan kritik dan saran melalui Facebook kami dengan cara klik like, komen on TV, suarakan visimu, dan setelah kamu menuliskan komentar, kamu bisa klik submit. Bagi komentar terbaik akan ditayangkan di televisi kesayanganmu, dan kota dengan tanggapan terinspiratif akan kami wawancarai. Tanggapanmu sangat berarti.
Bayangkan, jika kita sebagai manusia dapat hidup berdampingan dengan alam. Maka, itu semua pasti akan menjadi mudah. Kemandirian dan kebersamaan inilah yang selalu menjadi modal dasar penyangga hidup masyarakat dari generasi ke generasi. Maka, pentingnya kolaborasi berkelanjutan agar terciptanya titik tumpuan awal yang akan menjadi peluang dan harapan untuk bisa melangkah ke depan. Maju bersama UMKM.
Pemirsa, kita awali dengan laporan perdana. Saudara, banjir bandang menerjang Dusun Mantam, Desa Tembolon, Bener,
dan merusak rumah warga di Kampung Negeri Antara 2024 dan meraih kemenangan pada lokasi yang terpisah. Salah satu tersangka
Skipjack are also targeted by comparatively primitive pole and line fleets. These vessels carry bait fish in tanks. Once a school of skipjack is found, the bait is thrown into the water to create a feeding frenzy. The fish are then hoisted aboard, one at a time, using poles. The rest of the regional catch is divided among three species, yellowfin, big-eye, and albacore. These fish are far more valuable than skipjack. Big-eye and yellowfin, in particular, are highly prized on the lucrative sushi market. Much of the catch ends up here in Tsujiki Market, Tokyo, where the most valuable fish can fetch as much as $50,000 each. Yellowfin and big-eye are targeted using long lines. Some of these lines are an incredible 15 kilometers in length. Long lining is designed to land the big fish. That's good for the yellowfin and big-eye populations, as it leaves the juveniles to grow and reproduce. But long lines, with their many thousands of baited hooks, tend to catch other large species too.
In the tuna fishery, in long lining, 46% of the fish caught are actually tuna. The remaining more than 50% of the catch is the non-targeted species. Now, 23% of that is sharks. So what we're seeing is a loss of a few species of sharks You've got the silky shark, which is the major one that's being attracted, and we're seeing huge decreases in their population as a result of bycatch to the longline tuna fishery.
In the vastness of the open ocean, sharks, tuna, and other big species tend to congregate around floating objects. Realizing this, fishermen have recently taken to building their own fish aggregating devices, or FADs. The rise in this type of fishing has led to a substantial increase in the skipjack catch over the past few years. The good news is that there's no sign of a decline in the skipjack population.
We're fortunate in this region in that a lot of the catch is skipjack, which is a very productive species. It's fairly short-lived, only a couple of years, and that population turns over very rapidly, and so it's very conducive to being able to support large catches.
Indeed, skipjack are so numerous that recent catch levels in the Western and Central Pacific are easily sustainable, according to the Secretariat of the Pacific Community.
The stock assessment for skipjack tuna indicates that we could take up to 40% more fish than we're taking now without negatively impacting the stock.
But skipjack is not the only species to be found around floating objects. They also attract large numbers of juvenile big-eye and yellowfin, among many other species.
Big-eye tuna is the species that we're most concerned about at the moment. In recent years, there has been an increasing amount of big-eye bycatch by purse seine fisheries as purse seiners have changed their operations to fishing around fish aggregation devices and have deepened the vertical extent of their nets, and they're picking up greater quantities of big-eye, which tend to hang out somewhat deeper in the water column.
Because of the large numbers of juvenile big-eye and yellowfin being caught by purse seiners, yellowfin are now thought to be fully exploited in the Western and Central Pacific, while big-eye have recently been added to the World Conservation Union's red list of vulnerable species. Big-eye and yellowfin are also threatened by the numerous low-tech fishing boats of the Philippines and Indonesia, which, like the purse seiners, tend to catch a high proportion of juvenile fish. Skipjack tuna could cope with further exploitation in the Western and Central Pacific. But unless a method of fishing can be developed that only takes this species, the difficult decision may need to be taken to leave the excess skipjack alone.
I'm certain that there shouldn't be any increase at all in the level of effort and capacity. Even skipjack, which is relatively healthy, so the scientists say, mightn't be in a few years' time. 7 years ago, yellowfin stocks were said to be healthy, and now we're being warned that they're at maximum exploitation. So that's enough evidence, I think, that we have to really be careful about overexploitation.
The Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission has the power to limit or to reduce the amount of fishing that happens in the region by assigning quotas and limiting fishing time. But as human populations increase, as tuna grows in popularity throughout the world, and as other fisheries continue to decline, the Commission will come under tremendous pressure to allow the fishery to expand apace. The battle of wills has already begun. Mainland China and the European Union have recently taken steps to join the likes of Japan and the United States as major players in the fishery. Meanwhile, island countries within the region are looking to expand their own tuna industries. The stakes could not be higher.
Without tuna, we can assure you the whole Pacific population will be a cost burden and a problem to the developed nations within the Pacific Rim. We will become a social burden to the rest of the world.
Ingin masuk TV? Ketika kamu menonton acara Bumi Hijau di televisi kesayanganmu, kamu bisa mengirimkan kritik dan saran melalui Facebook kami dengan cara klik like, komen on TV, suarakan visimu, dan setelah kamu menuliskan komentar, kamu bisa klik submit. Bagi komentar terbaik akan ditayangkan di televisi kesayanganmu, dan kota dengan tanggapan terinspiratif akan kami wawancarai. Tanggapanmu sangat berarti.
Ngomong-ngomong, semalam kamu nonton nggak acara tentang Merapi di acara Bumi Hijau?
Bumi Hijau? Apaan tuh?
Nah, itu acara TV baru yang cuma ada di stasiun TV lokal di seluruh Indonesia, men.
Wah, kayaknya keren tuh. Ntar malam nonton lah.
Makanya, nonton.
Kegigihan dan ketekunan akan cita dan rasa menjadi penggerak masyarakat di pesisir timur Aceh untuk menggali potensi yang ada. Keberagaman dalam kreativitas ini didasari oleh rasa ingin tahu yang besar, yang selalu menjadi harapan dalam menjaga asa di masa depan. Perjuangan bersama dalam melahirkan ide-ide baru akan selalu menjadi pedoman awal. Dari kini hingga nanti. Maju bersama UMKM.
Bisa kita awali dengan laporan perdana, Saudara. Banjir bandang menerjang Dusun Mantam, Desa Tembolon,
dan merusak rumah warga di Kampung Negeri Antara 2024 dan meraih kemenangan pada lokasi yang terpisah. Salah satu tersangka
Can the Commission prevent the collapse of the island state's single most important resource? The records of similar organizations around the world do not augur well. But there is evidence that this new Commission has learned from the mistakes of its forebears.
We have the advantage of looking at other regional fisheries management organisations that have been established in years gone by. Some of them are fairly ineffective. For example, the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission doesn't do the job that it really should, and there is great concern for the future, the sustainability of the tuna stocks in the Indian Ocean. We want to make sure that doesn't happen in the Pacific.
This is probably the most comprehensive fishing conservation regime in the world today. The decision-making procedure of other international fisheries organizations, they allow them to opt out of decisions, whereas in this organization, there is no opt-out provision. In other words, if you're not happy with a decision, you can't simply walk away.
And fishing nations can't just refuse to take part in the first place.
That even though these parties have indicated a keen desire to sign on to the Convention and the Commission, their own processes of ratification in their countries are quite lengthy, and it's really a procedural issue more than anything else at this time. Even if these important fishing nations chose not to ratify, they would still be bound legally by the Convention.
It's taken more than 10 years of hard work to get this far, and the Commission's roots go deeper still. For despite the fact that it has only recently acquired a regional fisheries organization, the Western and Central Pacific is far from a free-for-all.
This has been one of the more managed fisheries in the world, which means that it's actually quite healthy, and they have long records to look at to understand how this fishery may be maintained over the years. So overall, it's in pretty good shape compared to most of the world's fisheries.
That the Commission has anything to preserve at all is due in part to the Pacific Islands Forum Fisheries Agency. For 25 years, the agency has helped its member countries to manage and conserve their tuna resources. Thanks to the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, the fishery also benefits from good data on the state of the stocks. These organizations will continue to play a vital role in advising and supporting the new Commission. The Commission will also benefit from a range of conservation and development projects at national levels.
These include support for good governance, support for the implementation of the rule of law, particularly more effective policing and justice systems, the delivery of effective services, particularly education and health, and support for economic growth.
We help particularly their fisheries departments, their fisheries bureaucracies in the Pacific Island Forum create an environment for sustainable fisheries. So there needs to be a conservation strategy, there needs to be a good licensing strategy and a monitoring strategy for foreign vessels, and they need to have some indigenous capacity too for fisheries. And if we can get all of those things working for them, that's a substantial contribution.
With assistance from AusAid, local fishery officials have introduced a management system in Samoa. The aim is to ensure the sustainability of the tuna resource. As well as limiting the number of fishing licenses, this system requires captains to log the tonnage of tuna and other species they catch on each trip. The management plan also involves coastal villages. Fisheries extension officers liaise with village chiefs to assess how sustainability can best be achieved.
Since we started this program from the AusAid, we've covered more than 80 villages now, and we've only got about 20 or 25 villages left. That's quite an achievement for the fisheries division, and we're very happy.
Each village draws up its own plan to establish a small marine park. The park is seeded with juvenile giant clams, which are nurtured until mature. They were a traditional delicacy, but natural stocks have recently been exhausted. Information is also given on other sustainable fishing practices.
We have a law of our village to stop those kind of fishing using dynamite and also poison roots of plants and things like that destroy the coral. We are fishing like that in olden time.
Have villagers seen positive results?
Yeah, many kinds of fish, and also big fish, and also wild fish, and many other kinds we have not seen before.
To reduce fishing pressure on the coastal reef system, tilapia, a freshwater fish, has been introduced. This provides an alternative source of protein for the people. The tilapia are reared at the fisheries department and then given to villages that have signed up to the plan. One of the biggest problems the Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission will have to combat is pirate fishing.
Ingin masuk TV? Ketika kamu menonton acara Bumi Hijau di televisi kesayanganmu, kamu bisa mengirimkan kritik dan saran melalui Facebook kami dengan cara klik like, komen on TV, suarakan visimu, dan setelah kamu menuliskan komentar, kamu bisa klik submit. Bagi komentar terbaik akan ditayangkan di televisi kesayanganmu, dan kota dengan tanggapan terinspiratif akan kami wawancarai. Tanggapanmu sangat berarti.
Kita hidup di dalam bumi yang hijau, dan hutan kita adalah paru-parunya. Aku tahu semua ini dari acara TV Bumi Hijau. Saksikan di TV lokal kesayanganmu.
Ngomong-ngomong, semalam kamu nonton nggak acara tentang Merapi di acara Bumi Hijau?
Bumi Hijau? Apaan tuh?
Nah, itu acara TV baru yang cuma ada di stasiun TV lokal di seluruh Indonesia, men.
Wah, kayaknya keren tuh. Ntar malam nonton lah.
Makanya nonton.
Televisi Bumi Hijau.
Bisa kita awali dengan laporan perdana. Saudara, banjir bandang menerjang Dusun Mantam, Desa Tembolon, Bener,
dan merusak rumah warga di Kampung Negeri Antara 2024 dan meraih kemenangan pada lokasi yang terpisah. Salah satu tersangka
In some important fisheries, illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing is believed to account for as much as 30% of total catches, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. No one knows exactly how much pirate fishing goes on in the Western and Central Pacific. But there's hope that it may be less of a problem here than in other areas of the world.
I think there's perhaps good reason to think that even though it may be significant, it may be less than is the case in other ocean areas, simply because more of the productive tuna fishing water lies within the EEZs of coastal states, and hence more opportunity for detection, observation, apprehension.
It's in the interests of law-abiding skippers like Robert Bedford to report the pirates.
This one particular boat had been reported a lot of times this year by different fishermen, probably at least 5 occasions where other fishing boats have sighted them, been up to get to them, and they've taken off. Nobody's been able to actually identify it. So we were a bit lucky that night. We were able to catch up to him, and he definitely was in those waters, there's no doubt about it. I mean, but he denies it, of course. So we're hoping that the fisheries, with the help of the FAA, will be able to stop these people.
To combat pirate fishing, the FFA operates a high-tech vessel monitoring system. Satellites are used to pinpoint the location of every licensed fishing boat in the region. But electronic surveillance is powerless against misreporting. To tackle this problem, you need observers on board. The Commission is expected to extend and improve existing observation programs. Ultimately, though, it's up to the Pacific states themselves to bring pirate fishermen to justice. This is easier said than done. Most island nations have just 1 or 2 boats with which to patrol vast areas of open ocean. But there is real determination among the region's police to put a stop to pirate fishing. And they have substantial support in the shape of hardware and expertise from their richer partners in the Pacific.
Well, the patrol boat program has been a very important part in enabling the Pacific Island countries to actually control and protect their own exclusive economic zones. Without that means at their disposal, they would have been fairly powerless, and so it has already paid great dividends for those nations.
These efforts are undermined if there's corruption within Pacific Island governments. Corruption and poor governance will be tough problems to tackle. But officials are beginning to realize there's a lot of money to be made in enforcing the rules.
Do you have a paper? Paper? Fishing license? Where you from? Taiwan? Taiwan. Yeah. Taiwan.
What was happening before, in lots of cases, the owners were notified that the boats had been caught, money was paid here under the table, the boats were gone, and bang, that was it. But it's a different story now, I know for a fact. Now they actually realise the value of the product that they're stealing and the value of the vessel, the fines involved, it all amounts up to millions of US dollars, so it's certainly worth grabbing those vessels. And if the court says, rightio, forfeited, there you go, you've got between $2-3 million US, one vessel.
And the existence of the new commission may help to reduce the potential for corruption within governments.
There is an obligation on the part of officials of states to ensure that they look after the resource properly. And they are going to be held accountable, which is the biggest difference. Whereas up until now, it's been pretty much an easier affair. You make an agreement, you can go away and do pretty much what you want, because you're not accountable to anyone except yourself.
Fisheries are collapsing around the world. The West and Central Pacific offers one of the few opportunities left to manage a fishery sustainably. Earth Report will be back to see whether the Commission can live up to expectations.